Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungary's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I am so sorry for her loss. Sincerely.
Many know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a Native Black American and a member of the Muscogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, send an email to mike@keymediapro.com to schedule a consultation.
How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration, because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you,
now,
just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have an
it's a rough estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the...
Yes, ma'am. May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate, and they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm in the middle of responding to the point you're raising,
okay.
And I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people.
I offer personalized one-on-one genealogy consultations for $75, but understanding that times are tough, from hurricanes to rising prices, I wanted to find a way to help further. In honor of Indigenous Peoples Day, I'm offering a special opportunity this week. a group consultation for just $35 for those who may not be able to book a one-on-one consultation. You'll still receive the same valuable information as in a private meeting. The only difference is that you'll be learning and asking questions in a group setting with fellow participants on a virtual call. To schedule a $35 group consultation, please email mike@keymediapro.com and include group consultation in the subject line. Looking forward to connecting with you.
What is the lesson? What is this telling us?
Well, there are several things that are significant about it. Of course, one of them is the way that colonialism tries to develop all kinds of elaborate classification terms for different kinds of people. But that's another subject. The most significant thing here is to reveal the much greater amounts of Native American ancestry that are present within the African American population than most people realize, because they might have been misled by the use of terms like mulatto, and also people of color. Colored people included Native Americans, for example, in the United States area.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them, and this shit get way deeper than your pigment.
All right. Hit the like button on the way in. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the program. Hit the Cash App or the PayPal if you support the mission, and let's get on with the content. Unless you've been sleeping under a rock, you probably know Kamala Harris recently got absolutely destroyed on Fox News. I mean, now I see why she doesn't do unscripted interviews. Now I see where whenever she gets interviewed, she has to get the questions in advance or read from a teleprompter. Now I see why. Because she cannot stand on her square to save her life. Let's go ahead and take a look at the debacle.
Vice President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration, because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you,
now,
just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system.
The point is, he just asked you a fucking question. How many millions of criminal migrants did you release from custody and unleash on American citizens? Was it 1 million? Was it 3 million? Was it 6 million? This bitch gonna say, well, let's get to the point. That's a deflection tactic. This is politics. This is technology.
And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you,
now,
just a
which
number.
is-
Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your
And-
Homeland Security Secretary said that 85%
Well, no,
of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
It's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of
system
6 million people
that
have been
needs to be-
released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question, I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure.
Guys, this is called filibustering. It's called filibustering. Hey, why did you guys open up the border and let all these migrants come over here and rape little girls? Oh, well, you know what? Before I did this act, and before I did this act, and before I did this bill, and before I did that bill, and before I did that other bill, I introduced the bill to look at the migrants.
Before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the CHIPS and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
Ooh, he's cooking her ass. That's why she's upset, because she's getting flame broiled right now, y'all. She's getting flame broiled. He said, oh, yeah, you introduced a bill. The bill actually made it legal for illegal immigrants to get a pathway to citizenship. Whoa. So the bill she's trying to talk about, the migrant crisis is an issue. I introduced a bill. Bitch, that bill was to help the migrants come over, not to stop it. And she cut him off because she knew he was about to start cooking.
May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they
in the
didn't bring
middle
up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and...
Hey, I'm just going to call a spade a spade. If you are really invested in this political theater, if you really do believe that presidents are elected and not selected, then goddamn, do you want a president who can't even get through a Fox News interview? How is she supposed to advocate on a global scale for our country? How is she supposed to go bang against Russia and North Korea and protect us from the terrorists, foreign and domestic, and blase, 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 blah? Come on. Come on. The military came out and said there's aliens. Is Kamala going to protect us from the aliens? I think Trump will. He said something about a space force. Y'all know I'm joking. Y'all know I'm joking. I don't endorse either political candidate. I've said time and time again, I only vote in local politics. I don't vote on a national scale because I have personal beliefs about that system. But guys, if you're invested in it, who do you want? Someone like this who's so incompetent, she can't even get through a few kind of tough questions?
Or put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
6 Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election...
Why does this bitch have to make everything about Donald Trump? I don't think this dude even said anything about Trump. Like, can she just advocate for her policies without bringing up Trump? I mean, is that possible? I'm sure Trump can do an interview without mentioning Kamala, but she just somehow has to tie this to the boogeyman because you know what she tried to do initially was vote for me. I say I'm black. When she found out that wasn't going to work because we pulled up her genealogy and we saw that she's a Hindu, Irish, Jamaican descendant of slave masters, then she said, you know what I'll do? You know what? Let's just say, hey, you have to vote for me because Trump's such a bad guy. Remember when Trump used to be president and like the world almost ended, right, guys? We went to DEFCON 5. You know, like nukes were flying in the air and it was like Red Dawn and, you know, Asians and Russians were parachuting from the sky because, you know, Trump was in office, right, guys? I mean, she talks like we didn't already have this motherfucker in office for a few years. It's not going to be the end of the world.
This is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you,
but actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley. They are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday, campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So,
guys, don't get it twisted. A lot of you may be new viewers. I don't pledge allegiance to either party. I think it's two wings of the same bird. These motherfuckers fake the funk on stage to control the masses behind closed doors. They're all members of the same Freemason lodges, secret societies, sororities, and sororities. So this is all for show. This is all for show. This is all for show. But with that said, certain things do change depending on which party has the presidency. So while on a global scale, no matter what, you know, the higher order of things is still going to be carried out regardless of who's the presidential puppet, certain things like border policy does change, albeit temporarily. And if we're just going to call a spade, these little girls would not have been raped and murdered if Trump was in office. Because if Trump was in office, the borders would not be wide the fuck open like this. Ugh.
Migrant encounters, they topped Bill 190,000 people.
There's a
in
selfie on another selfie. You see the wall in the distance, right? Yeah. So at some point they came through, whether there was a hole there or a gap in the wall, who knows? But they'll be processed, and very soon you're going to see our drone cameras overhead showing you where.
Kamala Harris got niggas taking selfies, rocking Montclair jackets coming through the border. What? Huh? Y'all don't understand the damage that has been done with Biden and Kamala in office. I don't think you guys understand. I understand. And most of the reason I understand is because it's my job to. I present news to you guys. I let you know what's really what's actually going on nowadays. But guys, when it comes to the migrant crisis, when it comes to the issue with the migrants, y'all don't understand how having a wide open border has directly resulted in the deaths of dozens of young children.
The 22-year-old migrant from the Republic of Congo is facing sex abuse charges allegedly involving an employee of the agency providing services to migrants. The 22-year-old came to Cheektowaga on a bus from New York City. District Attorney John Flynn says Kindo Jancy is accused of committing an act of sexual misconduct against a female employee of that healthcare service provider hired to help the asylum seekers.
Tonight, a migrant has been charged with raping a 15-year-old disabled girl at a Rockland hotel. The case already sparking outcry from local leaders. WBZ's Brandon Truitt is live in Rockland with what was revealed in court today. Brandon?
Well, Chris, the state started booking out all of the rooms in this hotel last year as a part of its emergency assistance shelter program. And authorities have confirmed to us that both the victim and suspect in this case lived here.
I have a patron. I don't know if he's a manager or a National Guard on the 911 line, 850 Hingham Street. It's going to be for the migrant section.
It was around 7 Wednesday night. Police records show a front desk worker called 911, reporting a 15-year-old disabled girl had been sexually assaulted.
Room 115. Meet the police. EMS response.
Police say they met the teenager in the lobby. Using multiple translators, she told authorities a man in the hotel brought her to his room to help her with an app on her tablet. Once there, he began having sex with her, the girl explained. According to the police report, the girl asked the man to leave her alone, but says that he wouldn't stop.
School bus driver in Rockville is arrested, accused of assaulting a 12-year-old special needs girl. Investigators say the incident happened a week ago, and the assault was recorded on the bus camera. The driver, Etienne Kabango, facing second-degree rape charges. He has worked at more than a dozen Montgomery County public schools. Police think there could be other victims. School officials say they have to follow protocol to fire him, but he was immediately put on leave and will not return as a driver.
That is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they...
And you guys don't understand what's going on right now, or at least some of you may not. Biden and Harris had a program where if they caught criminals trying to sneak into the country, they had a catch and release program where they would release these criminals. They would say, hey, migrant, you just did this crime. We're not going to arrest you. We're just going to charge you. We're going to release you and sign this paper that says you're going to be on your best behavior. And some of these people got caught up on crimes. Biden and Harris program said, you know what, we're going to release you, even though you should be in jail. Just promise to be on your best behavior. And a couple months later, those same criminals rape and kill a 15-year-old girl and her dead body is found in the bushes. Molest a 16-year-old girl that's disabled in a shelter. Bus driver takes advantage. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And these are people who are known criminals, but they thought, hey, let's catch them and release them. They don't even give American citizens that fucking privilege. When's the last time they said to an American citizen, you know what? You did a crime. You should go to jail right now, but we going to catch and release you. But the migrants get catch and release and thousands on debit cards and thousands on EBT and free hotel stay. And they raping the disabled girl in the next room. And they trying to rape the hotel worker who's working at the hotel they staying at for free. All right. But if we say close the border, if we say we call it ICE, we racist.
Were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss.
And body language is key. She's shaking her head no because she's answering his question subconsciously. He said, will you give those families an apology? She's shaking her head no. But she's a politician, so even though her body is being truthful and saying, no, I'm not going to apologize to those families, no, I'm not gonna, she's a politician, so the lies come out of her mouth so freely. She shakes her head no as she says, It is an unfortunate situation, though. You know, look, she's looking off to the side. Will you apologize to those families? No. But I will say though that it is tragic. But no, I ain't gonna apologize for shit. No, I ain't gonna apologize for shit. But I'll say it's a little tragic.
So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I am so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening.
But when you say but, that negates everything you just previously said. Come on. If you say but, then you're basically taking away what you just verbalized. I mean, it don't make no damn sense. If I said, hey, Tech Phoenix, you beautiful, but okay. All right. If I said, hey, New Era, you cool, you my Niji, but well, goddamn it, but what? Why would she ever say but after saying that it's an unfortunate event that due to her policies, little girls were slain by criminal illegal migrants?
Happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in all fairness, I told you I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett. Well, that's how this system works.
Guys, you don't understand. Although these elitists have 100-year plans and they all, inbred cousins working with each other behind the scenes, sometimes there's a wrench thrown in your plan. And what they didn't count on is Sleepy Joe getting oh so sleepy. So what happened was Joe Biden was supposed to run for a second term. By the time Joe Biden's done with the second term, they would have groomed another Democrat to be able to, battle it out for the presidency. But they're scrambling. The Democratic Party is scrambling like Chicken Little. The sky is falling. What do? Trump's about to run again. Biden, we can't run again. Biden, what are we going to do? Oh, let's throw Kamala in the mix. Do you know how much of an uphill fight it is convincing the American people to take a bitch who ain't done shit for us as vice president and now make her president? If she ain't do shit good for us while she was vice president, then why do we give her a promotion? Come on, if you own a business and you have an assistant manager that's shitty, then why are you going to give them a pay increase, a more prestigious title, and make them operations manager? It don't make no sense. But they had to, because they had no other political puppets groomed and ripened and ready. They didn't have their next Barry Obama yet.
That's the premise of this question. There were 90-plus executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara.
What does it have to do with you letting all these criminals come through unabated? I mean, what? Because when you were a San Francisco prosecutor, you prosecuted some gang members? What? Hey, she don't want to talk about them single black parents she prosecuted too, because their kids miss a few days of school.
Cartel to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
Oh no, they're cooking this bitch. Oh, they're cooking this bitch. I didn't even know about that one. I didn't know she's advocating for open borders and training operations for prisoners. Damn. Let's see how she's gonna respond. She's so mad right now. She is seething. She said, motherfucker, this isn't what I signed up for. You didn't tell me this was gonna be played. She is so mad. I'm ready for y'all. Are y'all ready?
Are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available to on a medical necessity basis.
So she deflected it to Trump. She played tennis, y'all. She just volleyed that right back to Trump. She said, let's talk about Trump. It was Trump's fault. Come on. And shout out to Oswald Kafele. Thank you so much for the Cash App. Very generous contribution. I appreciate the support. Thank you for sliding something in the brown paper bag. And goddamn it, with a name like that, I got to assume that you're African. So shout out to those folks across the pond, if that is the case. I mean, I don't think Oswald Kafele. I mean, Kafele could be Moorish or something. He could be on his Hebrew Israelite tip. I don't know. If you're watching, leave a comment in the live chat. Let me know you're here. But either way, thank you for sliding something in the brown paper bag.
Brown paper bag. Brown paper bag.
To people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened
presidency.
in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you?
Yeah, like you have to take responsibility for the little girls that were raped and murdered by migrants that you did a catch and release program with. Yeah, it's so funny how she just said you have to take advantage for what happened during your administration. Oh, chicken head ass broad. Okay.
You know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black.
I know how to make a mean pot of greens. In fact, people used to ask me to make greens for them for Christmas. One year.
Wait, hold on. Pause the show. I'm so sorry to offend one of my most gracious donors. Shout out to Oswald. He is in the building. He says, no, I am not African, brother. Oswald means black and Kafele means worth dying for. It's a Muslim. Oh, okay. Hey, my second guess was was Moorish, and Moorish, Muslim. I think the Moors might be Muslim. I don't know. I feel like I was a little close. And let me see if I can get this right. I think that this is within the Muslim faith. Assalamu alaikum. And then I believe in return you would say like Salaikum salam, right? No? Yeah? Maybe?
I had so many that I had to wash that we ended up washing them in the bathtub.
Collard greens in a bathtub, an image that's cheap and classless. You keep repeating the same old plantation bullshit, tired narrative we outgrew. Jokes on you. Collard greens in a bathtub, an image that's cheap and classless. Ooh.
You support reparations for Black people.
I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people.
Advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment
I will
surgeries.
follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear.
Hey guys, let's see how culturally fluent I am with the Muslims. Maybe this is the right culture. I'm going to be embarrassed if this isn't. Kamala Harris, when I hear her speak, it makes me say, Wallahi. Did I get that right? Maybe? No? Yeah? Let me know, chat.
The voters, because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on plans for the American people, I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker, would ignite inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think?
Hey, speaking of Muslims, it's fucked up that we have this interestingly orchestrated act of terror on 9/11, and because of that we like totally demonize and ostracize Muslims for decades afterwards. And if you really think about it, although there was all them jokes in the media and everybody's looking at a Muslim in a turban, crazy at the airport type shit, right? If you really think about it, by and large, Muslim immigrants ain't really done no damage to our country like that. I mean, depending on what neighborhood you grew up in, you may have positive or negative experience with Muslims. Being, raised in the suburbs, most of the Muslims I came in contact with stereotypically were, tobacco store owners, smoke shop owners, corner store owners, and it was always respectful. But when you compare these Venezuelan migrants and these African migrants and these Haitian migrants, this is a real criminal element. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys heard, but not only is they touching on the kids, but they taking the ducks, y'all. They taking the ducks and the geese. Nobody's safe. Hide your geese, hide your ducks. It's getting wild out here.
We cannot allow any significant non-citizen threat to the children of our community with this.
My orientation for my job today, and I see a group of Haitian people. There was about 4 of them. They all had geese in their hand. They got away. I couldn't make out the first 3 in the license plate, but I got the numbers.
Clark County Communications.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I got a question. This is a non-emergency line, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm sitting here. I'm riding on the trail going to my orientation for my job today, and I see a group of Haitian people. There was about 4 of them. They all had geese in their hand. They got away. I couldn't make out the first 3 in the license plate, but I got the numbers.
People say they trust him on the economy than they trust you.
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of, but also I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing.
How about closing the border?
Field, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Not fun. This is not cool, bro. They really out here decapitating animals.
Haitians, they are taking ducks and cutting their heads off and taking them home to eat them.
I want out of this town. I am sorry. Please give me a reason to stay.
I knew the places they were talking about. I know the neighborhoods that they're talking about. I know what goes on in Snyder Park. I know that there's ducks and geese all year long, and then to hear that people are feeding off of those wild animals, it's preposterous.
Today's Haitians, tomorrow may be Somalian, it may be African, it may be German, it may be, but we need to stop this today because Martin Luther King fought for this, and we cannot sit back and watch it revive again.
They have fear, a lot of fears going on right now. Some of them are talking about leaving Springfield. Some of them are scared for their life. It's a little bit tough for us.
27-year-old Alexis Farrell was eating a cat on the 1100 block of 13th Street Southeast in Canton.
Stand up.
Officers on scene placed Farrell in handcuffs as a crowd of onlookers watched.
Put your hands behind your back. Someone got rubber gloves. She's covered in blood.
Police believe she killed the cat before eating it. One writing they saw blood on Alexis's feet, hands, and fur on her.
Issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed.
Jesus Christ, can she say anything without mentioning Donald Trump? He didn't even say nothing about, he didn't ask about Trump. He didn't even, like, no, stop it. She go to sleep having nightmares about Donald.
And implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than
70%
70% of people
that is
tell
about turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president.
Damn.
That is what they're saying, 79% of them.
Let this man cook.
Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam Vice President.
Wow. Whenever she fails at bullshitting, she starts trying to laugh her way out of it. Hey, if the country's failing, you're the one who's been in office. Like, yeah, but Donald Trump's been running for, bitch, what? How does that make any sense? How did that make any sense?
79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the.
And Donald Trump's been running for. Come on, come on. What does Donald Trump running for office have to do with our country not being on track, and you being at the helm for the last 3 years? What the fuck? Yeah, well, Donald's been running. Yeah, I've been in office, but Donald's been. Hey, yes, I've been the manager, but Donald applied to be the manager. I mean, like what?
Turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that
He
over
said,
the
no, I
last
don't.
decade.
He said, no, bitch, I don't follow you. she tried to, no, you know what I'm talking about. You feel me right now? No, ma'am, I don't feel you.
People have become, but listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
it's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
My name is Javaris Johnson. I work in the oil and gas industry as a truck driver. I recently just did a consultation for my genealogy with Mike at Key Media Pro. It was awesome. A lot of great information. A lot of stuff I'm going to have to go back and digest because it was so much information, man. And it really helped me to get on the path to enrolling with my tribe and learning everything, man. And it's just a great and awesome experience. You know, I encourage you guys, you know, if you're curious, to go out, do your family tree and connect with your ancestors.
Telling you your history and telling you what your history is and what it's not, and this and that. But it's refreshing to at least having a framework of what, you know, your possible history is, you know, especially like I say, growing up in being born in Worth County, you know, that was used to be an Indian village. Indian post, and then learning that they, you know, for some reason, 1800s, you know, people were removed. So I wouldn't know until I dig in deeper whether I'm, you know, what side of them I'm on, you know, through your consultation, you know, where you kind of put some perspective to it. You know, if it, like you said, it was only 4% of Africans that was brought here to this land.
This is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat.
Hey, Kamala, I like you with the melodies. I don't like you when you act tough. Like, who is she trying to intimidate? She thinks she hard body right now, y'all. Look at that look on her face. She thinks she chewing something. She's like, oh. How dare you? I'm angry now. Look at me. This is my mad face. You won't like me when I'm angry. Trust me, I start smelling like curry when I'm angry. I mean, come on. She's tripping.
To the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump. You call Donald Trump. He's misguided. You say now he's unstable.
He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers.
Damn, he's not stable, but he a billionaire, huh? Shit. If an unstable person can be a billionaire, then what's our excuse, huh?
That Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best.
Nah. The American people have a much bigger concern about Sleepy Joe, because before he was Sleepy Joe, we knew him as Creepy Joe.
Oh, no. He's done it again.
Now, the very important thing I told my daughter and granddaughters, no serious guys till you're 30.
Okay. No what?
No serious guys till you're 30.
I'll keep that in mind. At least.
Yeah, that's not creepy at all, is it? Getting into a young girl's personal space and telling her not to have any boyfriends until she's 30. And look at how the alarmed Secret Service dude tries to stop this being taped once he sees that Joe has reverted back to this peculiar behaviour. Because this is nothing new. Indeed, creepy Joe being handsy, inappropriate and invading people's personal space was something the US media used to note. Even the far-left CNN used to report on his weird antics.
There are hugs where you just throw up your arms and go for it. And then there are hugs that keep going and going and going. Joe Biden wouldn't let Hillary go as they met on the tarmac at Scranton Airport. About 4 seconds into the hug, they semi-disengage. Nothing to see here, right? Wrong, because the vice president wouldn't unhand Hillary for almost 16 seconds.
Notice how many times she tries to tap out. She lets it go. He does not. She tap out. Nope, she's just, no, he's still holding on. Okay, second tap out. For God's sake, Joe, you got to let go.
This latest awkward hug would not have been microanalyzed if it hadn't been for all the other overly handy Biden moments. Critics collect them. Times when he gently rearranges a young girl's hair and whispers in her ear, then rearranges some more. There's nothing pervy here. The VP knows he's on camera at these swearing-in ceremonies, and the parents are right there as he leans in for a kiss.
Yes, in the days before Biden was president or running to be president, even leftist outlets were happy to tell you about his bizarre behaviour.
Perhaps his most famous hands-on moment came when he put his hands on the wife of Defense Secretary Ash Carter.
Got a lot of thanks to give out here.
Conservatives panned it.
This is the creepiest thing.
And so did some liberals.
No, that ain't right, man. That ain't right. Why are you appeared to smell her hair?
At least the VP didn't get that close to Hillary.
Now, the late-night comedians used to marvel at Joe's disturbing episodes before Trump broke their brains and turned them into humorless DNC propagandists.
I can still see it! What could you possibly be saying to her?
John, I just came from a one-on-one interview with Vice President Biden. He swears he's seen the error of his ways, and for her part, this reporter believes him.
Including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out, even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in this situation.
Hey, y'all, let's call a spade a spade. If that's what he does in public, imagine what he does in private.
Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another.
Hey, at least when Trump was talking about grabbing him by the pussy, he was talking about some grown women, okay? Some grown women. Biden over there, hey, lady, let me whisper in your ear. Tell you a little something you might like to hear. Like, what was he when you yanked twin on that little girl? Wait till you see my
running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Madam Vice President, two more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? This attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the number one threat?
Come on, I cannot take any more of Kamala, Obama. This is all I have for you guys this evening. Thank you guys for showing up and showing out as always. Major shout out once again to our Muslim brother for sliding something in the brown paper bag. And shout out to everybody for your continued viewership. We'll be live next week. Peace.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British men. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners. Raised up the children to worship their images. Set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them. And this shit get way deeper than your pigment.